Good evening. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Temple Independent School District on September 9th, 2019. First item is to declare a quorum, which we do have. Unfortunately, Shannon Gowan is out sick tonight, so we wish her the best and keep her in our thoughts and prayers. The second item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Would everybody please stand?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Item 3 is public forum. We do have one person registered to speak tonight. Just want to remind everyone that the board will hear comments for those persons who have signed up to speak. And each person may speak for no more than 3 minutes. And during this part of the meeting, the board will listen, but will not engage in dialogue or debate with the speakers. And the board reminds speakers that public comment time is not the time or place to bring the board complaints about a particular program, employee, or individual. The board has adopted specific complaint policies and procedures presenting those complaints. Signed up tonight is Mrs. Kathleen Brown. Mrs. Brown, welcome. If you could come up and state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
All right. Whoop, something there. My name is Kathleen Brown, 3702 Jaguar Trail, Temple, Texas. And I'm speaking on the Constitution Day that's coming up. Dr. Ott, members of the Temple Independent School Board, and citizens. On November 19th, 1863, the Gettysburg Address was delivered by President Abraham Lincoln at the dedication of the Soldiers' National Cemetery at the scene of the Battle of Gettysburg of the American Civil War. He started out 77 years ago. Our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Because of the tyranny of the form of government that they had been living under and had declared their independence from, and the confederation that they had formed was not working, those men labored for 4 months. And once a new constitution was written, it took over a year for every state to ratify it and to actually start the wheels of government rolling. There were myriad pages written by many of the founders and others who expounded on their intent for what they meant in forming this new government, and those writings survive today for us to read and study. Public schools in Iowa are credited with first observing a Constitution Day on September 17th in 1911. By 1949, all of the then 48 states had issued Constitution Day proclamations. In August 1953, the U.S. Congress declared Constitution Day, calling it Citizenship Day, a national holiday, when they passed a joint resolution designating September 17 to 23 as Constitution Week nationwide, with President Dwight D. Eisenhower signing it into law. In 2004, an amendment by West Virginia Senator Robert Byrd to the Omnibus Spending Bill of 2004 renamed the holiday Constitution Day and Citizenship Day, and required all government-funded schools and federal agencies to provide educational programming on the United States Constitution on that day. It's important that our children are educated in our Constitution, not just reading about it, but becoming immersed in it, reading it, knowing it, learning it. Otherwise, this country will no longer be in existence. I encourage TISD to make learning about the Constitution a fundamental part of our children's education, not just on Constitution Day. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Item 4 is the superintendent's recognitions. Item A, recognition of Superintendent Leadership Award and congressional recognition for Mr. Chester Harrison, presented by Dr. Bobby Ott and Ms. Cheryl Hassman from Congressman John Carter's office. And with the board members, could you please come to the front here?
That's your cue, Chester.
All right. Leadership is the attitude assumed by those with a vision to raise expectations, who are committed to achieving a goal and whose conviction inspires others through enthusiasm and optimism to reach that goal. This award recognizes those who go above and beyond expectations to serve a cause greater than themselves. Pastor Chester Harrison retired from Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church and quickly found a new ministry and passion masked behind the role of crossing guard 27 years ago. For nearly 3 decades, Pastor Harrison has been welcoming students, families, and staff on their way to and from school. He has uttered countless words of blessing and encouragement and has showered the campus, his mission field, with abundant prayer. Pastor Harrison, you are truly an inspiration and a blessing to us all. On behalf of Temple ISD, we thank you and present this award to you and hope that all of us could strive to be the person that you are. We appreciate you so very much.
Come on up here. Just get right in front of me. Well, I think we can see everyone is swelling with pride right now. When I think about, this is incredible, by the way. When I think about Meredith Dunbar, they are our youngest children, perhaps most vulnerable, certainly most dependent on adults. And then I think about our assignment, who we have there, Chester Harrison. It couldn't have been drawn up better. Every day, our young children have the chance to be greeted, blessed, welcomed, and cared for by you. And we truly appreciate your hard work and your commitment, and there's nobody that deserves this award any more than you. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you.
If you stay here, Cheryl Hassman from Congressman Carter's office has an award to present.
Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent Ott and the board, and ladies and gentlemen. It is Congressman Carter's great, great privilege to present you a congressional recognition. May I read it, please, sir? It is an honor to wish you my very best greetings for 92 years of life well lived and great service to your community. May God continue to bless you with many wonderful things to come. John R. Carter, Texas 31.
There we go. Yes, perfect. And smile. Smile.
And I do want to take a second to thank the NAACP for being here. They actually had a meeting at this time, and they postponed that just so they could be here and support Chester Harrison. So thank you for being a partner of the school district and certainly being here to share in this celebration.
Item B is recognition of an outstanding performer at the UIL Texas State Solo and Ensemble Contest.
Right now, I've asked Cameron Reclue, the choir director at Temple High School, to come up with me so that we can present this award. Haley, if you would please come forward. Temple High School senior Haley Campbell, I'm going to actually let you stand up here so everybody can see you. Haley Campbell was named a 2019 Outstanding Performer for her vocal solo during the UIL Texas State Solo and Ensemble Contest this summer. This award is the highest award a Texas choral student can earn aside from placement in the All-State Choir. So during the solo competition, a judge will listen to students all day long from many different schools, and at the end of the competition, the judge will select a student as the overall best soloist. So in addition to earning a 1 for her solo performance, Haley was also selected for the covetous Outstanding Performer Award. So Haley, on behalf of Temple ISD, congratulations. We are so proud of you and know that this is just the beginning for you. Thank you. We'll go shake hands and then they'll want to take a picture also. So Haley, if you'll, you gotta come in the middle. I promised you it would only be for a little bit, only humiliation for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, squeeze a little bit. There you go.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Got it.
Congratulations, you guys.
Item C is the recognition of 2020 Elementary Teacher of the Year finalist.
Out of the 76 school districts across the 12-county education service area of Region 12, Temple ISD has 2 outstanding educators who have been selected as finalists for the Top Teaching Award, the 2020 Region 12 Teachers of the Year. Deborah Malone is a 2020 finalist for Region 12 Elementary Teacher of the Year. Deborah is a pre-K teacher who has been with the district for 20 years. So Deborah, would you please come up for us? Rosa Perez is a 2020 finalist for Region 12 Secondary Teacher of the Year. She is a math teacher at Bonham and has been with the district for 16 years. Rosa, if you will come up. Ladies, on behalf of Temple ISD, congratulations. We are truly proud of you.
Get up and leave. You decided it's time to go home.
Item 5 is executive hires. Mr. Palmer, I don't believe we have any items tonight. Item 6 is board president's report. Members, is there any future items we wish to discuss at a future board meeting? All right. And Dr. Ott, the important dates.
Okay, the dates listed in your packet, I'll just pick out a few of them as reminders. Tomorrow is Temple High School Open House from 5 to 7. And on September 11th, we have our School Health Advisory Council meeting. In fact, that will come off the heels of approving the committee this evening, I believe, which is something that we're taking to you for consideration. Then September 13th, it's not on here, so I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but that is Virginia Suarez's birthday. And our fantastic singer already left, so we're not going to take you through that, but it's worth a mention. September 15th, back to school prayer ceremony. That we have a location for that. It's at the Crossroads Church in Belton, and that starts at 3 p.m. In fact, I think some of us may be on the program. September 16th, Constitution Week, and we'll be celebrating the Freedom Walk during that week as well. And then if you flip to the back, TASB Convention, I believe the ones that are attending are Virginia, Dan, and Sandy, and you should have your packets at your place for that convention. We also have our policy meeting, policy committee meeting September 25th, and then the facilities committee follows September 26th. We have Central Texas College Night, the Bell County Expo Center from 6 to 8, and that's September 26th. That's led by the counselors in Gear Up. And then it wouldn't be fair to do one and not the other, but September 30th is Sandy's birthday as well. We also have staff work day, campus day that day, and that is all I have. Dan.
All right, is there any questions? Okay. Item 7 is consent items. Consideration for approval of the following group of items. Agenda items 7A through J, 1 through 2. And what is the pleasure of the board to hear these individually or as a whole?
I make a motion that we hear them all together.
Second the motion.
Motion made by Mr. Gaines, seconded by Mrs. Davis. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 The ayes have it. It passes. Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Dr. Ott.
One of the consent items is the district enrollment. And I do want to make a comment on that because there's been, a lot of questions. Where are we at in terms of enrollment? And of course, it's early on, but I will tell you that as of September 4th, that enrollment report shows that we are up 55 students from where we were where we were last year at that time. So we're hoping that that trend continues and we continue growing as a school district. So I just wanted to present that information to you out of consent.
Next item is 8 action items. A, human resources, and I don't believe we have any items. B is curriculum instructions. 1, instructional safety implications from the 86th legislative session. Dr. Adams.
Good evening, Board, Dr. Ott. Actually, Mr. Hageberg and myself will both be providing this legislative update for you today. Our goal is really to give you an update on House Bill 3 and how that impacts Temple ISD, as well as some of the other legislative bills that came out of this last session. Our goal is really to provide the understanding, and so please ask questions. Dr. Ott told us we could take some time on this, so I might talk a little slower than I usually do, but our goal is to really help educate, and if we don't know because the legislature hasn't told us, then we'll tell you we're not sure and come back to you with that. But that's really our goal tonight, so please ask questions as we go along, and hopefully hopefully this will be informative for you. Our overview really will start with looking at school and student safety initiatives and policy updates. We do have a couple of policies that will need to be drafted as part of the legislative session, and Mr. Hagerberg will be doing those presentations. And then I will review the early education implications from the legislative session, college and career and military readiness outcomes, special education, and then some opportunities for some extended year programs as well. Okay? And so I'm going to turn it over to Eric and let him get started, and then I'll come back and talk about the curriculum initiatives.
Good evening. While most of the media headlines this legislative session was about school finance and teacher compensation, there was a significant amount of activity on numerous other fronts of public education. One such area was school safety and security. Texas Education Code 38.004. This is the section on policies addressing sexual abuse and other maltreatment of children. Now requires school districts to increase awareness of staff, students, parents regarding sexual abuse and sex trafficking. While we have accomplished in this past year, which we have accomplished in this past year, an e-course required of all staff beginning at the start of the school year. House Bill 111 amended this section to include language addressing these issues, including children with significant cognitive disabilities. The training module will be updated to include this new requirement. Additionally, at the end of August, we were approached by a graduate student from Texas State University working on a project-based thesis who inquired about creating a web page resource on the district site for human trafficking awareness. We've developed an initial plan with him on what that page might look like, and we made sure that it included this new requirement, and hopefully his work will end up being a resource which we can have on our website and for our community. Also, House Bill 403 amended this section by including the requirement of similar training for the Board of Trustees of school districts. Every 2 years, board members must now have 1 hour of training identifying and reporting potential victims of sexual abuse and human trafficking. Also, as part of school superintendents' continuing education requirements, superintendents must have 2.5 hours of this training every 5 years.
Eric, I'm sorry. Will that be offered through the TASB at the different meetings we go to, or we offer it here in the district?
In talking with Ms. Crumno, we anticipate this being offered whether it's at the annual convention or through the service center or through webinars that you'll soon be having that be given notice of the opportunities to satisfy this requirement. Okay. Next, House Bill 496 creates Texas Education Code 38.030, which requires school districts to develop and annually make available a protocol for school employees to follow in the event of a traumatic injury involving blood loss. Bleeding control centers are required at each campus, and SROs, security personnel, and other personnel who may reasonably be expected to use the bleeding control center must complete a TEA-approved training. By October 1st, 2019, TEA is supposed to have the approved course of instruction to be used. And in fact, on Friday, TEA by email released details for vendors that wanted to participate and be approved in this. So that's they have that in the works for their approved list. And in law, by January 1st, 2020, school districts must have these protocols in place and proper training conducted. Additional language states that this training cannot be just an online course. Our Health Services Department has already established bleeding control centers at each of our campus with our nurses, and we are waiting on TEA to give us the approved course of instruction so that we can train the appropriate staff. Any questions so far? Next, House Bill 684 created Texas Education Code 38.032 and 38.033, which requires a TEA-approved online course of instruction for school nurses and school employees whose duties include regular contact with students with an identified seizure disorder. Also, a parent and guardian may submit a school and seizure management and treatment plan for their student that has been developed not only by the parent, but also by the student's physician. Our Health Services Department is aware of this requirement, and we're waiting on TEA to develop this online course. That's for the seizure management. Next, House Bill 2195 amended the Texas Education Code 37.108, requiring school districts to include active shooter emergency policy and training in its multi-hazard emergency operation plan. Temple ISD has conducted lockdown drills that would be utilized in the event of a potential active shooter situations for many years now. Starting 2 years ago, the Temple PD, during its annual start of the year professional development at each campus, began an active shooter module giving staff information and training on what to expect and how to react to such situations. In fact, one of the most dramatic parts of this training is the incorporation of the sound of the discharge of a firearm in the hall in the building that allows staff to hear what it actually hears, what it actually sounds like firsthand, having that sound inside a building. And we will update our multi-hazard plan to reference these trainings we have already been conducting. Senate Bill 11 amended numerous statutes to the Texas Education Code. One section was 38.006, and it related to the adoption and implementation of a policy requiring the integration of trauma-informed practices in the school environment. TEA Commissioner rules are forthcoming, but nearly all, if not all, of these requirements they are developing have been or will be accomplished through the use of our Trust-Based Relation Intervention Program, our TBRI, which is already in place for several years now. We have Candace Gale as a certified TBRI practitioner, which allows her to formally train our staff internally. And as a reminder, that TBRI, that's part of our three-prong philosophy of behavioral intervention, which also includes CHAMPS and restorative practices, and is the basis of our student behavior management framework. Senate Bill 11 also created Texas Education Code 28.004 subsection O, which adds to the duties of the School Health Advisory Council, that's the SHAC, to make policies, recommendations to increase parental awareness of suicide-related risk factors and warning signs, as well as of available community suicide prevention services. As far as staff is concerned this year, we added a suicide awareness module to the annual e-course training for staff that was mentioned earlier. And over the course of the year, the SHAC will be addressing this new duty. Any questions so far? And I don't know if I'm talking slower or faster than this, sir. We'll have to evaluate that at the end. Senate Bill 11 also amended the Texas Education Code 37.108, the section regarding the district's multi-hazard operations plan in a couple of places. In the past, the plan specifically required it to address mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. Now added to this list is prevention. We will incorporate the required changes in our plan and implementation during our annual review of the emergency operations plan. Secondly, the plan must provide for district employees, and in this language it specifically references substitute teachers, to have access to an electronic communication device that allows for immediate contact with district emergency services and law enforcement agencies. All of our classrooms currently have telephones in them, so all staff can dial 911 and reach these emergency services. And additionally, we're in the process of piloting what's called a Smart Button app at Temple High School, in which all teachers and staff can receive real-time notifications of situations and be given specific directions through this app on what to do during the situation, as well as have an immediate two-way communication with the SRO and campus administration. So we're piloting that at Temple High School this year. Thirdly, these multi-hazard plans are now going to be reviewed and verified by the Texas School Safety Center. This process is still being developed, and no timeline was written into law except to say at regular intervals. My guess is that it will somehow be tied to the district safety audit that's required to be submitted to the Safety Center every 3 years. Oh. Yeah. Senate Bill 11 also amended the Texas Education Code, requiring policies, procedures, trainings of district and campus threat assessment teams. Specifically, threat assessment, safe and supportive school teams must be established at each campus to address both physical and psychological safety, as well as behavioral and mental health support. At the start of last summer, Chief Mitchell presented us a resource from the United States Secret Service regarding threat assessment teams for school districts. And one of our board retreats last year included a presentation on our plan to incorporate these teams into our system. And in fact, we have these teams and procedures already in place. An upcoming board retreat will give you more details on the implementation of this initiative. Several members of the Student Services Department attended a full-day Region 12 workshop about 3 weeks ago that was regarding threat assessment as well as the related protocols. Senate Bill 11 also amended the Texas Education Code to require school districts that received a bomb threat or terroristic threat to notify parents, and the language in the law is as soon as possible. We are waiting on guidance from TEA on what constitutes a viable threat and what is soon as possible. So that'll be forthcoming.
And Eric, if I may, that is a very critical interpretation, because if it's just any threat and notification goes out and it's not legitimate, or it hasn't been investigated, or it's not credible, then at that point you can get into just causing disruptions. And that can be something that becomes manipulative in a school system. So this is very critical, this piece that we're waiting for. I can tell you that the Administrators Association is really pushing that it needs to be something that's viewed as a credible threat, and law enforcement should be involved to help determine that, and instead of just this immediate notification that goes out when there's a threat that arrives. So just be on the lookout for that. Thanks, Eric.
Any questions so far? Changes to the Texas Education Code also now requires that school districts must conduct lockdown and lockout drills, as well as the already required fire drills. We have been conducting these drills for a long time, and we have these type of drills as part of our monthly drill review. In coordination with the Temple Police Department, we have been conducting lockdown and lockout drills at a minimum of once per semester for many years now, and we'll continue this practice, and we'll continue documenting these efforts to ensure compliance with the law. Senate Bill 869, which amends various subsections of the Education Code 38.0151, relating to policies and care of students at risk of serious allergic reactions. District guidelines, policies, and procedures are required to be reviewed annually. At the start of each school year, our nurses go through a full-day training as part of their annual orientation. This orientation includes a module on serious allergic reactions and the use of EpiPens, and we will continue with this training. Any questions, school and student safety? Legislative update. Next, one of the parts of House Bill 3 references gifted and talented programs. Language added to Texas Education Code 29.122 requires the adoption of a policy regarding the use of funds to support the district's GT program. Failure to comply may result in the reduction of funding. While we haven't yet seen I haven't seen it yet in the upcoming Policy Update 113, which, by the way, we'll be plowing through next meeting. So stay tuned. I would anticipate this requirement would be addressed in the next Policy Update 114.
Eric, what is the reasoning behind that, the new change?
My guess is that prior to Senate Bill 3, there was a GT allotment that was written into the code, and since with their new structure, they moved all those allotments into the basic allotment, and this is just one of their ways of ensuring oversight of it.
They've had questions that, do we still have to offer a gifted and talented program? And yes, we do. And so this is their way of saying, you get this funding, but you're required to align your program to the state plan.
And lastly, at least for my part, Senate Bill 820, which adds Texas Education Code 11.175, requires school districts to adopt a cybersecurity policy addressing cyber attacks and mitigation planning, as well as requiring the superintendent to designate a cybersecurity coordinator. Congratulations to Mr. Civic. To serve as a liaison between the district and the Texas Department of Information Resources. The coordinator must report all incidents to the agency and provide notice to parents as required. And I know Mr. Civic is already working diligently on these requirements.
And Eric, I believe there's in Maryland, a training component, required training for cybersecurity that board members are required to go through, as well as myself. And I think they're developing that training module at this time. I believe TASB is working on that. So just stay tuned for that piece. And Lisa, when she did the introduction of this, this is really the first post-legislative session update. This stuff, it comes out in the form of House Bill this, Senate Bill this, and then it's Education Code, and then it works into the implementation matter, the Texas Administrative Code and the Commissioner's Rules, and then that's where it gets to us, where we need to, figure out implementation, at least at the school level. So some of the stuff Eric was referring to when he made mention, future board meetings, future retreats, that's all a timing issue because the commissioner's still working rules out on some of these items. We're still waiting for some of the interpretations, as he mentioned, to come roll out. But this is an update that tells you, hey, we're waiting here on these issues, and then here we already know what's going on, and this is how we're implementing them. So.
Any questions?
All right, thank you very much, Eric.
I feel like we should high five. All right. There we go. Okay. Curriculum and instruction learning can't happen in classrooms unless there's safe students, and so we appreciate all Eric does to make sure that our students are taken good care of. So we're going to start by looking at early education. One of the major components of House Bill 3 was really to target and focus on early education, and it looked at 4 different areas. And so I'm just going to take each one of these apart, and we'll talk through kind of what the next steps are for these. There are some things that are already in place, and there are some things that we're still waiting on from TEA. So the first component is that we are required by the legislature to have an early childhood literacy and early childhood math proficiency plan. The goal of this plan is that it will be a 5-year plan with quantifiable goals, all aligned to students making growth on the 3rd grade reading and math STAR. So really focusing on the K2 instruction, or actually pre-K2 instruction. I know that there will be a component of it that will be required of teachers and professional development for teachers who are not making progress on the goals that are set. It will be something that would be brought to you in a future board meeting, and you would need to approve it. Other than that, I know in the next few weeks we'll have more information released for us on what that's supposed to look like, and we'll be working with Region 12 as well to assist us with that. So that's the bare minimum of what I know about that. And so we'll be working to make sure that we're choosing goals that are aligned to our district initiatives and the vision and mission that you've set forth as a school board. The second is K2 assessments, and we have been utilizing progress monitoring assessments in pre-K through 2, actually, for many, many years. The requirement of the legislature is that we would administer those and report those results to parents within 60 calendar days. And we actually are in a very good spot there because we report those results every time that we administer that assessment. We do it 3 times a year, and it does not take us 60 days to do that. That's simply sent home with the students in their backpacks, and we work with our parents to make sure we explain those. So that's much more timely than that. So I think that we go above and beyond in that area. So that's was a good one for us. The third one is the teacher literacy academies, and that's aligned to the new reading standards. So probably 2 or 3 years ago, the state embarked on refiguring, redesigning, realigning our K through 12 English language arts standards, and those are pretty complex standards if you think about teaching a student to read and write. And so this year we are implementing the K-8 English language arts standards. And so a part of the literacy academies is they want to ensure that we have teachers who are appropriately trained to teach reading in grades K through 2. And so one of the things it says is that we have to implement our phonemic awareness curriculum, our phonics curriculum in grades K through 3, that we have to directly teach phonics in a systematic manner. And we do have a very robust curriculum. We use the Foundations curriculum. We've been using it for multiple years. And as you can see, if you look back over time, our literacy skills have improved over time. We've seen our data improve in early literacy by the utilization of that phonics program. But they ask us to reevaluate it, and we do that on a yearly basis. So we'll continue to do that. But our literacy coaches are very well trained in that. There are coaches on the campus, and they provide that staff development and real-time service to our most struggling students in the area of phonics. So that area is a good place. Temple's in a good spot there. The second thing that the state has said is that all kindergarten through to 2nd grade teachers must have attended a teacher literacy academy by the year 2021 or 2022. So not this next school year, but the following school year. And that we as a district cannot allow a teacher to teach in grades K through 2 without the completion of that literacy academy. That's a pretty overwhelming thought, I think, for us. We know there will be a cost associated with it. We'll know that we'll have to figure out how to deliver that PD, or how are we going to work with our region center to see. We've heard discussion about teachers maybe being able to take some sort of assessment to determine how much professional development or coaching, because there's not just standalone training, but there's also coaching attached to that. Now, this year, our school district elected to be a part of a pilot called the Reed Academy. And so we have every one of our elementary campus principals or an assistant principal who've attended that training, as well as almost a teacher from every grade level in each one of our campuses who have attended that training this summer and are doing coaching. But I have no idea if, I'm assuming the Reed Academy will morph into the Teacher Literacy Academy. But again, we're waiting on TEA to define what that looks like, what's the cost associated with that, and how we will be able to deliver that to our teachers. There's also the higher education component, because if new teachers are required to have that professional development, how are our higher education counterparts making sure that they're embedding that into their pedagogy as well? So we are going to have to obviously track that professional development, make sure that our teachers are prepared and ready to do that, and figure out how we're going to offer that training. More to come on that, because the legislature just hasn't been very specific about that area. Any questions on that?
Dr. Adams, in the pilot program, how long was the training?
That's a good question. It was a 5-day program that our teachers attended this summer, and they received a stipend for it, and we were required to send an administrator. And I don't know if I made that clear, but the Teacher Literacy Academy is not only for our teachers, but our administrators also have to attend the training with them. So it was 5 days, and then there was the coach will actually come on site to our campuses and work. I'm not sure exactly how many of those days are. I can look that up though and get that for you. And then there's some Saturday components as well. So there were 6 Saturdays that the teacher was being asked to attend, and they chose to. This was a pilot. They are being compensated through a stipend. Good, great question.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, this is going to be an interesting piece that rolls out, and I'm not sure it's going to be smooth when you think about all the teachers across the state and the timeline given. I've heard a couple different things on it over the weekend, as a matter of fact. I've heard that all teachers will be required to take a proficiency exam, and if they do well on it, then they only have to attend 5 days. If they don't, they have to attend up to 10, maybe even more. And that obviously be during the summer. I think the thing that really deserves some attention and flexibility is this idea that you cannot hire a teacher at all unless they've gone through that, because there are situations where teachers leave at semester, or there are situations where you have a need for, when you get your students actually showing up for, after enrollment, after the first week or so of school, and you have to level, we have too many 4th grade teachers and not enough kindergarten. Well, if that 4th grade teacher hadn't gone through that, what does that really mean? That 4th grade teacher, I'd rather have them, if they're a 4th grade reading teacher, teaching our 2nd graders reading than, pulling a sub or, eating that cost and then turning around and posting a position and hoping in October or September you can find. There's a lot of pieces to this that can cause some serious complications and financial burdens too. The preliminary, just taking a guess on how many of our teachers would pass or do well in the proficiency versus not, or how many would have to go to this training versus that. This could be a cost north of $375,000 to train our teachers in the district K through 2. So now it's my understanding they're saying that this is already in the House Bill 3 monies. I'm not sure about that, but this is one that we're going to have to really keep our eye out on. I don't think the state has the manpower. I don't think the higher education institutions are going to really dive into this. I think they're probably going to treat it like they do regular educator certification. Here's the testing site. You take courses through us to graduate, and then you go do that on your own. There's a lot of things we're going to have to really think through on implementing this. I think the concept of having teachers receive additional training in literacy is probably a really good idea. But to train, I don't know how many teachers across the state, 70-something thousand or however many in grades K through whatever, but to have all that done in a year and a half, 2 years, and have it developed, I think it's going to be extremely difficult to pull it off, but we'll see. That's one we'll pay very close attention to, and like I said, there'll be a financial component to that as well that, I'm sure we're going to have to assume that cost.
The last one is high-quality pre-K, full-day high-quality pre-K, and obviously we went ahead and implemented that this school year, and super excited about all that's accomplished. Really, this is not as a challenging one for us because we already have many of the high-quality pre-K components in place. It really asks you to look at the curriculum that you use, as well as the progress monitoring, those assessments to just monitor students' learning in reading and math or literacy. And so we already have many of those in place. So our goal this year will be just to review our curriculum, just to make sure it meets those requirements, as well as to look at any of the new assessments that are released through the state to make sure that we're on the commissioner's list for those assessments, which we always have been, but they release new ones, and it's always good to look at and see if that would better meet our need. The second component is the teacher qualifications, and so again, we're focusing on, is our teacher highly qualified to teach in a high-quality pre-K. It's not the same thing as highly qualified from years ago. Joe and I have had that conversation. So really, the idea is that the legislator will require the teachers to have an early childhood certification, which is what all of our teachers have in order to be able to teach. But then they have to have an additional component. And so that looks at, are they Texas school ready, which many of our teachers are. They went through that program years ago. Do they have some graduate work in early childhood education? Do they have a degree in early childhood education? I think I just said that. And the last one is that they have 150 hours of professional development in early childhood education, as well as half of those hours, 75 hours of that have to be with coaching. So someone's mentoring them or supporting them. And so for some of our teachers who do not have that extra certification, we're going to work to put to monitor their professional development and make sure that we have a coaching component of that. And with the board helping us with the literacy coaches as well, we have a literacy coach at Meredith Dunbar, and so she can support us through that as well. But so can our principal and our half-time assistant principal there. So we have lots of resources in place to support our teachers there, so that won't be a challenging one. The last one is we have to complete a parent engagement plan. We have a parent engagement policy, so we just need to beef that up just a little bit to make sure that it meets the components of high quality pre-K, and then we're required to do a program evaluation, and so we will do that at the end of the year. I think it makes sense to have a new principal go through a year of school before we do that program evaluation with her, and so we'll be doing that as well for our full day pre-K to continue to encourage growth there. So any questions about early childhood education? All right, so let's shift to the end of the road, college, career, and military readiness. And so additionally, we are required by the state to have a CCMR plan, and that means that we will adopt annual goals aligned to closing the achievement gaps of our student populations, as well as looking at our student achievement overall. That's really all I know about it. I know that it will be adopted by the board, so in a future meeting, I will bring you the CCMR plan and we'll talk through that. But other than that, we're still waiting on information from the state. They've told us that through the middle of September, end of September, we'll see more guidance on that. And so hopefully I'll be able to provide more information for you on there. We will continue to align it to our district initiatives and our goals and what we're doing. The second one is the CCMR bonus outcomes. And so this is the idea that we will get a bonus for annual graduates above the threshold percentage. They haven't calculated what the threshold percentage is, so I couldn't tell you if we will qualify or we won't. But they're going to look at monies to give to a student, an economically disadvantaged student who meets the measure and is above the threshold. We would get $5,000 for every one of those students. A non-economically disadvantaged, we would get $3,000, and for our special education students, we would get $2,000. And they will will be determining this by either the student met the outcome for college, career, or military readiness. And so for college, it's going to look at the TSI score. A TSI is just the Texas Student Initiative, and so that means we're going to look at the score a student had on their TSIA, which is an entrance exam for college, or SAT or ACT. And we're going to see, did based on what that student scored on that exam, and did they earn an associate degree during school, or did they enroll in college immediately following their high school graduation? So that's the way a student is college ready. That makes sense? So it's the score on the exam, and they either earned their associate's degree while in school, in high school, or they immediately enrolled in college as the fall. They know they've got to do a better job of being able to gather that information for us, right? Because some of our students go out of state and some of our students go to private institutions. So they're trying to work on a clearinghouse to gather that information. But that's one way. The second way is through a career readiness. So it's my TSI score, that TSIA, the SAT, or the ACT, and I earned an industry-based certification. So we have students who've done that as well, and we're continuing to try to grow that. The last one is military readiness, so that the student has passed the ASVAB and enlisted. So past the ASVAB and enlisted. And so for us in Temple, really what we are looking for is we're going to continue to shore up our, for our college bonus, we're going to continue to shore up our training for our teachers on the SAT, the TSIA, just make sure they understand the components of those assessments, because they've changed over time, and also embed some support into our junior and senior English classes as well as our math classes. So aligning some of our instruction, because really the goal for our junior seniors is that we help assist our students in hitting the score they need for their SAT or ACT or TSIA, depending on what's appropriate for the student. We're also going to look at how we could offer the ASVAB on campus at the high school, and look into if we could use some prep materials or some support there. The ASVAB is free. It doesn't cost anything, but there may be some opportunities for us to better prepare our students. We have a very robust ROTC program, and so and there's other students that want to enroll in the military that are not in that program. So assisting them in accomplishing that goal as well. Okay? Any questions on the bonus? Oh, the only other thing I will tell you is this will be calculated on our 2017-18 graduates. So they are looking back. I know it's puzzling, isn't it? But it's the 2017-18 graduates, and they will work forward from there. Okay? You have a comment, Dr. Ott?
Just bizarre.
That's what they said they were going to do, and so I just do what they say. Okay, the next one is the reimbursements for college entrance exams and industry-based certification. This is super exciting, I think. I think this is one of the best things that's come out of the legislature, besides full-day pre-K. I really like that one too. But this one is funding will be released this September that will let us offer the TSIA, the SAT, or the ACT, and they will reimburse us for the cost of every junior taking the SAT, TSIA, or the ACT. So everybody, entrance exams are those three. I don't have to keep repeating them. But every junior in their, I'm sorry, let me make sure I say this right. In the spring semester of their junior year or the fall semester of their senior year. And so this is super exciting for us. So we are planning to offer a SAT campus day for our students. So no longer will our students have to go on a Saturday and take their SAT. Instead, we can actually offer that on a school day, just like we've done the PSAT in the past. We are trying to we will be offering that to our juniors this spring. We actually already have the date set. It's March 4th. And so we'll be offering that. Our counselor conversations will align to this. So as we counsel our students this fall, we will make sure that we talk to them about, have you registered? You don't really have to register at all. We're going to register them. We're going to take care of it. These are the few things they need to bring. This is what your student has elected to choose. And so we'll go through that, but we'll make sure every one of our juniors takes the SAT, and every one of our seniors, if they need it this fall, we'll make sure that we do that for them. The state will reimburse us regardless of if the student passes or hits the mark, hits the appropriate measure needed to apply for college, and they will reimburse us the cost of the highest exam. So if we give a student 2 exams, we get the reimbursement of the highest exam as well. So I think that's a great opportunity for our students, because many of our students choose not to take those tests because they are not during the school day. They're outside of the school day. And so this allows us to provide that for them.
Lisa, is that effect for this fall? Or
It is.
So seniors now that haven't taken those will have the opportunity.
Our goal is to try to offer an SAT Campus Administration Day on October 16th, and I just don't have that finalized or confirmed
fine,
in my mind, so I don't want you to know that that's exactly what's going to happen, but I tried to get a hold of the high school today. That's what we were trying to make sure we could have access to the assessments.
I would think our numbers will really dramatically rise with this now being offered during the school day.
Absolutely.
And been paid for, yeah.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
exciting,
It is.
especially for our student population. I'm super excited about that. As
So,
a-
Lisa,
Go
I
ahead.
have a question. So all the students, as a sophomore, we take care of the PSAT?
Yes.
Is that, and then maybe some freshmen
That's our
that
current
are-
practice. We may
Right.
reevaluate that for next year, but that's our current practice this year.
And maybe some freshmen that could be in consideration for national merit or something
Yes.
like that,
Mhm.
right?
And 11th graders that are in consideration for national merit as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll do SAT for 11th,
In the spring?
starting this year,
Mm-hmm.
and possibly seniors. TSI where's that in the equation? Are we,
Yeah. So Temple High School is actually going to become a testing site for TSIA.
Okay.
And so for some students, it does make more sense to take the TSIA instead of the SAT. Because maybe they haven't accomplished their English 1 and 2
Right.
assessment. And so we will administer that on a student-by-student basis.
and any of those pieces, they're not necessarily considered bonus outcomes?
Yes.
They
So
are.
if a student, remember what the college component was. If a student hits the measure for the TSI score for any of those assessments and earns their associate's degree or enrolls in college in the fall, they would be considered hitting that college readiness standard. But there's a threshold. You have to have a certain number of students who hit that, and the students that are over that threshold are who you get the $5,000 for.
And the bonus, does that also apply to SAT or ACT at all?
Yes.
Okay,
So TSI is the Texas Student Initiative, and that encompasses those 3 exams.
okay,
I know it's confusing because one of the exams has the same name.
right,
Yeah.
got it.
In cases when the students wants to take SAT multiple times, those are also reimbursed?
We only get reimbursed for one test per student. Mhm. So the first time, it could be a reimbursement, and if the student wanted to challenge it again, they could. If they take it, if they took it their senior year after their junior, and we can only be reimbursed in the spring of their junior year and the fall of their senior year. So if they challenged it earlier, we wouldn't be reimbursed for that.
Okay,
Make sense?
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Any other questions about, okay, so then the next part of that is the industry-based certifications. The state is also going to begin reimbursing us for industry-based certification exams, which is wonderful as well, because we've had great community support and partnerships to help us assist our students. Remember, a welding exam is, I think, $350. So this is wonderful. However, the caveat is a student must pass the exam in order for us to be reimbursed. Now, we have a process in place right now where we have our students complete a practice exam prior to taking the IBC, and so we will continue that process because we want to ensure our students are prepared prior to taking that. So we'll keep that, but that's a wonderful addition to support us as well there. Okay. The last one is FAFSA. And so FAFSA, beginning in 2021-22, so not this next school year, but the next year, they're going to require that every senior complete a FAFSA or complete a piece of paper that says they will opt out. So we will have to have documentation on every single senior to do that. The good news is it doesn't start this right now. It doesn't start this year, and it doesn't start next year. So we can have some time to figure out the logistics of that, and the state is trying to figure out the logistics of that as well. In fact, they're not giving any guidance on it until November, which I thought was interesting. However, we have already begun. One of the things that came from the joint board retreat was some opportunities for us to collaborate, and so we've already begun to talk with TC about how they could assist us with helping our students to complete those FAFSAs. They've talked about us picking a day where we go into senior level classes, choose a class, and just have lots of folks here. We've talked about the opportunity of maybe doing phone calls and setting up times or letting our parents know what those pieces are, for helping to better facilitate that so our parents don't always have to come up. But open labs, things like that. So we have lots of ideas in place. So more to come with that, but appreciate Temple College being a partner to us and being willing to assist us with that as well. Okay, any questions about college, career, and military readiness? I'm almost done. Am I talking too fast? Special education. So for special education, this is actually some great things. The state is now, one of the things that we do when we graduate high school is we are required to have our students choose an endorsement, kind of like a major, right? They choose an endorsement, an area that they want to study and focus in. But one of the things that's been a challenge is for our students in modified curriculum, they weren't able to obtain those endorsements. And so the state is now saying that we will be allowed to give our students who are in modified curriculum the opportunity to earn an endorsement. And so we will be working with the Region Center and the state to develop an ARD process for that, so that we can, as we review student progress, we can ensure that our students who could have earned those endorsements, even with their disabilities, are able to do so. So that's a great option for our students. Also, we are now required to provide instruction in Braille if it's appropriate, and share information about the benefits of Braille if it's appropriate, and we do both already. So our blind teacher, Miss Errol, is wonderful, and she does an amazing job with our students. So we are already in a good spot for that in Temple. The last one are, we have some opportunities for some extended year programs. One of them is around the idea of CT summer programs, and so that's going to be a grant that will be released this fall in November, and really looking at opportunities. The suggestions that TEA made are that we would maybe have a summer bridge camp for incoming ninth graders in preparation for CTE, that we might collaborate with another school district and share facilities, that we would maybe have some summer experiences for our students that would lead to industry certifications, which we have internships and things. It's like they're reading the things that we do, which is great because they're willing to help fund them, and I think that's fantastic. Or accelerate the completion of some of our more advanced courses or internships. So this will be a competitive grant. There's $5 million attached to it, and so Mrs. Ayers and I have already talked about how what are some ideas that we have, and she's got some guidance on that. So we will definitely be writing a grant for this and competing for this, because I think it'll be a great opportunity for the students in Temple ISD. The last is additional elementary instructional days. The state is going to allow us it is possible to add up to 210 days of instruction for elementary school, and they'll give half-day funding for those additional days. They'll provide half-day funding. Not really sure what that could look like, but we offer summer school to every student in elementary school that has a need, and so we're waiting on TA to really give us some more guidance on that, because that might be an opportunity for us to generate funding for summer school, and provide really that support for our students who need it, and might need more of an extended year program. So want to see what that looks like before we commit to something like that. But I think it's always good to take a look at if there's an opportunity for us to generate some additional funding for something that we already are providing for our students. Okay, so that concludes Eric and my presentation. Do you have any questions or any other?
Is there any questions? I know this is a lot of material. It was a busy session this year. Thank y'all very much for going through. This is a lot to put together, a lot to research. Thank you for the update.
Thank you for your attention. We appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you. Next item is C1, consideration for approval and adoption of 2019-2020 tax rate. The recommendation is to approve the property tax rate of 1.0359 for maintenance and operations and 0.3150 for debt service, for a total tax rate of 1.3509 per $100 evaluation. Mr. Boyd.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Posey. As you know, has been spoken about already tonight, House Bill 3, one of the byproducts of that was also tax relief, and you will see that reflected in the rates that we are bringing to you tonight. I'll go through these numbers real quickly. As you know, there is an attached ordinance that incorporates the proper state-required language. But in short, the maintenance and operations proposed tax rate is $1 and a little over 3.5 cents. So that amounts to 1.0359. The other portion of our tax rate is the debt service portion, and the proposed tax rate there is 0.315, or about 31.5 cents. Back when we discussed the budget in June, we proposed a tax rate at that time, and this tax rate is about 0.5 cent less than, or is 0.5 cent less than what we projected at that time. So therefore, because it is less, public hearing is not required at this time. So what that does is bring us to a total recommended total tax rate of a little over $1.35, or what would be 1.3509. That's approximately 5 cents lower than what our total tax rate was last year. Are there any questions that you might have of me or of Callan Vaden, who worked on this also?
Are there any questions, the board members? And the motion they need to read is the recommendation language.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the property tax rate of $1.0359 for M&O and 0.3150 for debt services, for a total tax rate of 1.3509 per $100 of valuation.
Okay, motion made by Dr. Sanhi. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gaines. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Thank you very much. It passes. Just want to say this, and this is true, Kent, that it's a 5 cent reduction,
Yes, sir,
Uh,
that's correct.
we're
Right
able to
about
do
5
that.
cents from where we were last year.
which is great. We're able to do that. And I believe it's, for a $100,000 home, it equates to about $50 in annual savings.
I believe that is correct.
All right. This is very good. It was good news.
that is
Appreciate what the state did in funding for us and the legislation to require this. So, yeah.
Yes, they certainly, obviously, that's a direct byproduct, as I said, of their assistance. And
Right.
and everyone is appreciative for that.
Exactly. We appreciate our state representatives helping to work on that,
Absolutely, yes, sir.
our legislative delegation. Yeah. All right.
Good deal.
Item C2, consideration for approval to purchase 8 buses utilizing TCEQ grant funding.
Yes,
And
thank
Mr.
you,
Boyd?
Mr. Posey. As you all recall, in August, we presented a report at that time and talked about Temple ISD being awarded a grant in the amount of $729,000 from Texas Commission on Environmental Quality as part of the Texas Volkswagen Environmental Mitigation Trust Settlement. And as we also reported at that time, we have folks in the audience tonight that were instrumental in that, and that's Patrick Kane, Amy Skopak, Callan Vaden all worked very hard in different parts to obtain this grant. This grant allows us to replace aging diesel buses with new diesel buses featuring lower NOx emissions. So we've identified 8 old buses. They range in age from 18 to 23 years old. And this grant will allow us to purchase those 8 buses. Mr. Kane is recommending the purchase of 8 77-passenger buses from Longhorn Bus Sales through the Buy Board Purchasing Cooperative, as it's attached on the next page in your documentation. Now, the total cost of the grant, or the total amount of the grant, and the total cost of 8 buses, there's still a delta of $57,000. If this purchase is approved tonight, we will prepare an amendment for that difference or that delta for consideration at the next board meeting. We've already discussed that, and we know how we can come up with the funding for that difference. And so we want to utilize all of the grant to be able to purchase 8 and then come up with the difference. This represents a really nice improvement to our fleet and certainly helps push us further down the road as far as our replacement cycle. So, any questions on that?
Is there a motion?
I move that the board make a determination that with the respect to the purchase of these 8 buses from TCEQ funding and the previous purchase of 3 buses from the general operating fund during the current fiscal year, the current budget does not permit the district to purchase buses that are equipped with 3-point seat belts for each passenger, including the operator.
Motion by Mr. Gaines,
I'll second it.
seconded by Dr. Sanhi. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. The aye passes, the motion passes. Thank you.
Ken, I just want to take a second to thank Amy and Patrick again and Callan for your work on the grant. I think it's one thing to be awarded as one of the grant recipients, but it's another to be the only recipient of an entire grant. This money was available for the entire county, it's my understanding, and there was one awardee. There could have been multiple, and they won it all. So that really allowed us the opportunity to ratchet our replacement cycle up. I'm not for sure I've heard this, but I hear that this puts us at our most aged fleet at about 2008. And if that is accurate, that is really, really good to have your oldest on the road every day routed buses at 11 years in terms of age. That's fantastic. This is a shot in the arm for our fleet, and this is something that will change things for years to come. So I really appreciate your work on this. I mean, this may be the largest grant that I know of that we have been awarded in a competitive sense since I've been here. It's just fantastic job by both of you. Truly amazing. Congratulations.
It was a great, I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention Regina Rochelle was also involved in it in the business office. Those 4 were all instrumental in that, and I
Just want
appreciate
to
them.
thank everybody. That's a tremendous amount of work and great outcome. Thank y'all. Appreciate it. D is student services. There are no items under this. E is board committee reports, facility committee, and Mr. Gaines.
Facility Committee met on Thursday, August 29th, 2019, and there was several items discussed. Property discussion was a street deed by Mr. Boyd to provide an update with the progress of retaining deeds for the street that wrap around the Temple High School campus. Administration will be kept, committee will be kept apprised of at future meetings. Kennedy Powell property sale. The sale of approximately 0.92 acres of land from Kennedy Powell campus is complete and has closed. Project updates, a swim center update. Stantec gave a presentation on the swim center project. The project will include demolition of the current swim center structure and a complete building from top to over the existing pool. The facility will be 6,700 square foot, larger than the current facility, and will feature additional seating, dedicated locker rooms, separate public restrooms, and enhanced lighting and ventilation system. In addition to the pool, and all equipment will be refurbished. The total cost for the project is around $6 million. A GMP will be ready this fall. Meredith Dunbar update. The committee received an update on the plan for the Meredith Dunbar project. Stantec and American and TISD members have met and several recently reviewed to refine the design scope of the project. The project will include significant renovation to the campus, including new HVAC equipment, ADA improvements, window replacement, restroom upgrades, PA and fire alarm upgrades, kitchen improvements, interior finish upgrades, and installation of the security entry vestibule. The cost of the project will be around $9 million. A GMP will be ready for early 2020. The Fine Arts in Lamar. updates. Stantec provided brief updates on the Fine Arts project at Temple High School, the Lamar addition, and the renovation project. Both projects are on schedule for completion the summer of 2020. Auxiliary Service Master Plan, Dr. Ott provided an update on the Auxiliary Service Master Planning process. Administration recently met with city representatives about facility joint use potential as part of the design. The administration has organized a meeting with Stantec and the city representative to discuss a possibility in more detail. Video board discussion. The committee discussed the possibility of purchasing a new video board. Our next meeting will be held September the 26th, 2019 at 4 p.m.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gaines. Item 2 is the policy committee update. Mrs. Davis.
The meeting was called to order at 4:01 p.m. The committee approved moving forward with recognizing Dr. Avotz as a friend of Temple ISD at the October board meeting. The Student Code of Conduct was approved at the last board meeting. The major changes were included in their packet for review. Mr. Hogelberg explained that the campus principals had requested adding language to local policy addressing students enrolled in private and home schools. TASB recommended adding language to FD local and FM local. The committee approved presenting these changes to the full board. After reviewing EIC local, TASB had recommended making changes in order to efficiently coordinate with our published grading guidelines. The changes were discussed. The committee approved presenting these changes to the full board. Items for the next policy committee meeting include Policy Update 113 and CW Local. The next policy committee meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, September 25th, 2019 at 4 p.m. Our meeting was adjourned at 4:35 p.m.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hagenberg?
We have 3 policies that we would like to present tonight. In practice, there's really, with the minor changes involved, there's really no change in how we operate. These are just slight changes that to clarify some policies and to have those policies match our current practice. First one I'll bring your attention to is FD Local. As Ms. Davis mentioned, this was requested by the principals. They have had requests over the years for students that were in private school or homeschooled to be able to participate in athletics or a band or other academic programs. And so it's been UIL. They do not allow that to happen as far as UIL activities that are governed by them. And we as a district have matched that, and so that with curricular programs that students, we haven't allowed them to participate in those programs either. So I direct your attention to the second page of FD Local. The only change is the addition of where it says students not enrolled, that a student enrolled in a private school, including a homeschool, should not be eligible for concurrent enrollment in the district, nor for participation in curricular or extracurricular activities. So that's the only addition there. Any questions on FD Local? Okay. FM Local is, all it does is add at the very bottom, you can see a reference to the policy that we just talked about, FD Local, about participation for private schools or homeschools. This policy references extracurricular activity, and they just suggest putting a reference to the previous policy included in that. Okay. Any questions on FM Local? Okay. EIC Local, if you just look at how the policy looks, it seems like there's lots of changes, but as I said, in practice, it's not. The last 3 pages were the policy as it was written, and so they totally reworked it, and so that where you see, starting on page 4, the red line, was the current policy, totally removed. Part of what was removed are things that are in the grading guidelines, and based on TASB's recommendation is that those are more appropriate in the guidelines rather than local policy, such as the courses that we use for class rank. They also structured it different, rather than intermingling 2020 and 21 graduates and 2022 and on. They separated them out. And one of the pieces that language that has changed, and this is to have more of a clarification in the with the Texas Bio Institute counting for weighted points, that instead of calling the categories advanced, dual credit, and regular, that starting from the graduating class of 2022, their categories are Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. That's just to eliminate some of the confusion on language and advanced and those type things. So as I said before, this has no change in how we operate. It's just a restructuring and of the current policy to more closely match our grading guidelines that we have on our website. Any questions on EIC local?
Are there any questions on any of these items? It does require a motion to approval and a motion.
I make a motion that we approve FD local, FM local, and EDI local. EDC local, I'm sorry.
Second the motion.
Motion by Mr. Gaines, seconded by Mrs. Davis. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Motion passes. Thank you. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much for attending tonight.